Culture, now that you have seen the first 4 episodes of She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, what do you think? Do you have the same overall modestly positive impression that most reviewers had? Apart from Grace Randolph, who somewhat incredibly thought it was too feminist, and that may not go down well. Was she completely nuts, or was she up to something there?
Well, I don't know if she was up to something, and I don't know if she's trying to, recreate some credibility with that. But I've now seen, as you said, the first 4 episodes. I have to say, I don't know how you would take away a mostly positive perception of the show. It in the most recent episode is just confuses me even more as to who this is for, because if you're saying this targets children, there's an awful lot of overt sexual themes here going on in this show, and more adult oriented conversation than you should be putting in front of children. So it can't be for kids. It's not. Its humor doesn't rise above maybe 6th or 7th grade at any point in time. And outside of some interesting action in this most recent episode, I would say that the CG actually is getting worse. The CGI, literally during a fight scene, her body stretches like Mr. Fantastic. I think we mentioned this the other day elsewhere, but it's a very, or I think maybe Tom said it the other day, but it is very very flat. It hops around very quickly. The story's not good, and they actually went about saying the following: Wong is here, so we have another round of Twitter armor for the week. So after telling you that
good luck with that,
after telling you that the show wasn't going to be full of cameos, it's been nothing but cameos constantly, whether intentional or not.
You know what my issue has been with those cameos? I'd rather not have had them, because each and every single one of them has been a character assassination on the character in question. Like, I want to hear your thoughts on Wong in particular, because Wong is now the Sorcerer Supreme since Doctor Strange blipped for 5 years. So Strange is still there, but now the roles are reversed, where Strange is Wong's manservant. So Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, and for those that haven't seen it, what happens in episode 4 is that there's a rogue magician by the name of not Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider, but Donny Blaze, complete and total ripoff. And this is someone who was at Taj Mahal or whatever the magic land where they learn magic is. He was there for a couple of weeks or something.
Kamatage.
Then he was evicted. But he kept his magical ring, the one that they used to open portals and stuff.
Yeah.
And now he functions as a cheap magician, doing parlor tricks and summoning demons and stuff like that. And now, of course, given this setup, Culture, what would be the natural thing for Wong to do, given that he's the Sorcerer Supreme? And here's a rogue magician who has one of these magic rings that he's not supposed to have.
Yeah.
What would Wong do about this?
Remove the ring. He would reclaim.
What's the last thing he would do about it?
Go to a lawyer.
Yeah. So what did they do in this episode of She-Hulk?
And they went to a lawyer.
Yeah, I tried to get a cease and desist.
And here's the funny thing, right? You would think the lawyer would immediately, instead of just a cease and desist, but a demand for stolen property, because the
sling ring, that's what it calls. So yeah, sling ring is the name of it.
Yeah, and I was I'm going, no, wait a minute. Why are we going with that when we clearly have stolen property on this person, right? And he'll still be able to do a certain amount of, rudimentary stuff, but he really wasn't there long enough to pick up a lot of the things that he demonstrated outside of obviously summoning these portals. So to me, it was a no-brainer, but that's beside the point. I mean, they really do portray Wong as kind of a bumbling idiot again.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and set that aside. I don't think they've done him any favors in character development since Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi, however people want me to pronounce that.
I would go one further. I don't think that they have done him any favors whatsoever since the first Doctor Strange. I mean, yeah, he was all right, like in Infinity, like in the Endgame and stuff, where he appeared for like a fraction of a second. But really, the last time he was done justice was in the first Doctor Strange. After that, he's basically been kind of like a joke, starting with Shang-Chi.
I mean, in the kind of ridiculousness that goes on in the courtroom is also just insane, crazy. They bring in a party girl to, pal around with Wong. So now,
That's so annoying.
Yeah,
I mean, he's the Sorcerer Supreme, and he has time to watch The Sopranos with this bitch.
Yeah, I don't know that that's the case, right? The post-credit scene, and by the way, I did not realize that post-credit scenes were going to be a thing in this show. So, I missed the twerking scene from the week before when it first happened, because once it gets to the credits, I'm usually like, oh, flip, thank goodness that's over. But I don't know. I cannot wait to hear what the boss's take on the episode, because she watched it last night, and we're going to combine our episode 3 and 4 reviews together. She has been much harsher on this program. I mean, for the truthfulness of it all, she is a feminist. I mean, she's a traditional feminist, not like what we have now.
That's kind of like what I mean. Feminist is a word that you have to define. You can't just say feminist because it doesn't mean anything, or rather it means too many things. Like, do you want equal rights to vote? Do you want to end the non-existent pay gap? Is it something else? Is it misandry? In the case of this series, it's pure and simple misandry. It's hatred of men, and it pervades every single scene.
Well, and it comes across even in Jen's dating life, right? Which we explore in this most recent episode. I'm not sure to what extent, we want to go into spoilers, but we've been there already. It's just,
who cares about this thing? Spoil away.
All right. She obviously signs up like she did in real life, right? On Tinder, except this thing's called Matcher or whatever. Swipe to the
Marvel's Tinder.
Yeah, Matcher. I wonder if Match.com is going to go after him for that. But anyway, so she signs up for this as herself. She doesn't get a lot of activity on her profile. And her gal pal, which I guess we find out in this episode's a lesbian, because she says, hetero dating is, sad or whatever. There's like a throwaway line in there, but I didn't know that she was a lesbian. Anyway, moving on from that, she then, because of how disappointing her results have been, no matches, she creates a profile as She-Hulk. And she goes on a series of ridiculous dates with ridiculous characterizations or stereotypes of men, are the worst of the worst, until she actually comes across the fake feminist guy who she actually, falls for because he wants to listen to her. Right. And so
basically, for those of he's super handsome. That's what helps. But then he's a charlatan and he lies. He's done this a million times before.
Yeah.
It's very clear.
Yeah. And he, anyway, so they go on their date, and she, because of his attitude, like, would you like to share some fries? Apparently that is the best pickup line ever. If you're after a feminist, just offer to share fries with her and she's going to take you home right away. Because she was like, well, I'll get those fries to go. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. And then in the morning, he dumps her because all men are pigs. That's
because he fetishized her as She-Hulk.
Yeah. I mean,
and she's the victim now. The morning after.
Yeah, she wakes up as Jen.
Yeah, because she's not She-Hulk anymore, so he has no interest in her.
Yeah.
And now he gets to go tell his buddies he fucked She-Hulk, Yep, like exactly. Men are.
Well, and here's the funniest thing, like, while Jen is away, or She-Hulk is away fighting the demons that were summoned by the dumbass magician, who's too incompetent, I think, to have done all the things that he does in the episode. But anyway, he's actually reading one of those, feminist books, right? That I brought up last night on Comics Stream. I can't even remember what it's called, like Sad Feminist or The Sad Feminist or some crap.
I can't remember. It was some feminist book.
Yeah, and it's like, this is the perfect portrayal of a fake feminist, right? It was so ridiculous and over the top. And if that was his book that he brought, which
gee, ladies, it makes me wonder why you're dealing with men like this all the time. Just saying.
Yeah, I will say that She-Hulk, she went into that one herself because, of course, the writers had shown that every man out there is hopeless, so that she could make a comment about, ladies dating in your 30s, right? She made like that joke, like, all men are hopeless, and we single women in our 30s are so much superior to them. This is our problem. Men do better. That's kind of like the message there. But then you see who she went with. I mean, at some point you have to look in the mirror to see who's to blame here.
Date outside your political pool. Just saying.
Well, that's, and that's the other thing too. I mean, in looking at it, there are a lot of great statements being made in the chat right now. But, and some people have said, well, he was catfished. I don't blame him. And to a certain extent, I understand where that point of view is coming from. But there are some ladies that do not look the same in the morning that they do the night they go out. I mean,
I know
seldom as extreme as in this case.
I know you guys were reaching it for that to be the joke last night, but that's not the joke. He knew clearly what he was doing. He was sleeping with She-Hulk.
I know.
He did not get catfished. He got She-Hulk. That's the real She-Hulk.
I know.
What it was, though, is he fetishized her as She-Hulk. So now they're going to turn this into a body positive message in one of the next episodes. It's going to be this whole thing about where she's the victim and all that shit, and he's the bad guy for it.
I know what they were going for. But again, this at certain times, this show is overly self-aware.
I haven't even watched it, but yeah, I could just imagine.
At certain times, this show is overly self-aware, and at certain times, it has complete lack of self-awareness. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know who they're writing for. And the answer came by one of our great folks out there in the chat one day. They're writing for other writers. This is what journalists are doing now. You're writing for other writers. You're not writing for an audience, because the only audience you're serving are other writers. That's what this is.
The audience that you're trying to get is, are you even really into this show?
Especially based on our descriptions.
Well, I have to say that the title of the show is very misleading because, if you just look at it from just title alone, it says that she's an attorney at law, and that implies that this is a working professional woman. And, for those of us who are who are listening to this stream right now, who are in the chat, who know professional women, I don't believe that this character is actually written or based on an actual professional woman in the working place. I think that this character has a lot of experiences of really bad dating situations that the writers have had. And they said, let's get every bad effed up experience we've ever had, and we're going to put it in this show. But She-Hulk is going to be different because she has this different, element about her. She can turn into this other character and see how she handles it. And that'll be pretty much the basis of the entire show. So it's a big experiment. She decides that she's going to twerk at work, which is something that working professionals don't ever do. But she's different because she's She-Hulk and she can do those things. She decides that she can pick up a stranger, a guy she's never met, and then, is somewhat hopeful that she's going to make breakfast for both of them, knowing that guy can't wait to get out of the door in the morning. He wouldn't even have spent the night. So let's be real about this. These encounters that are happening in this story are not realistic. That just would never even happen. I don't even think Megan Thee Stallion would have even gone to speak to She-Hulk, because Megan Thee Stallion has a sexier, vibe to her. And they created a scenario where she looks like a conservative person in a suit. I don't even think I've ever seen Megan Thee Stallion with that many clothes on before. I almost didn't even recognize her. They could have gone full on sexy in the episode and had Megan Thee Stallion performing, and She-Hulk would have to go meet her at a performance, and we'd see the real character. But they use it as an example to make fun of people. And, the comedy is, let's make fun of everybody at their expense. but there's a lot of insertions of when I say at their expense, I mean pretty much everybody in the episode. There's a lot of insertions of real life experiences that people are embarrassed by, and they've chosen to put it into this show, and it's not entertaining. It's nice to see her try to get her groove on. It's nice that she can go out and pick up some guy, but anybody can do that. There was nothing special about it.
Right.
Just like what you three have said, you can make yourself look glamorous, and then the next morning you can look not so glamorous. And, that's the reality of everybody. So why is it special that She-Hulk is going through it? Well, I don't understand.
This is funny because this is where we get that scene that we saw in the original trailer for the show where she lifts up the guy off the couch. That's the guy. And she says during a fight with the demons, because she's trying to get back to this date at her apartment, that this guy is really smart and he's really sensitive and and he's really attractive. Not that matters. And then she says, but actually, let's be honest, it does matter. And I'm like, okay, people go with people that they're attracted to. It's okay. It's like, but it's that snarky way of doing it. And again, somebody pointed out that it's likely that this is the episode that Dana Schwartz probably had the most influence on. And I would agree.
Probably.
She doesn't know this guy. He's a stranger, and she just picked him up. And any woman out there will tell you that, maybe you're going to get a few hours with this guy, but then it's over. This fantasy of her making two things of breakfast, one for her and one for him, so they could sit in the morning and talk about how wonderful it was. That was never going to happen. He wouldn't even have been there when she woke up.
The guy's supposed to do that anyway.
No, it's fine that he can leave. Kidding. He doesn't have to stay.
No, I mean, make the breakfast is what I was joking about.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, that would be nice. But come on, let's just.
That's kind of the way it's supposed
something to from somebody you don't even know. Come on, and then they're going to use that as an example to show that someone's bad. It doesn't even in the context that it's in, it doesn't make any sense.
But it's because she felt this connection because he listened to her. He ran the playbook. He ran the playbook and got where he needed to go.
Wow. So then they're also saying that women are not intelligent.
Oh,
I think they're playing it as this was empowering because she was the one who wanted him, and she lifted him and grabbed him to the bedroom.
But then
I think that they're going with this is female empowerment. Is what I think.
Well, I think if she was more empowered, she would be ready with the next guy the next day and be fine with it and not even think about it.
We don't know what happens in the next episode.
Yes. And I hope that she isn't, sort of like in her mind thinking that this was going to be the most incredible guy. I mean,
no, she got over him real quickly. She was like, of course he left the day after, because then he sees her as herself and he's like, oh, okay, bye.
But she did put out the breakfast implying that she thought he was going to stay. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No one would have done that. So.
Well, certainly they would. These writers would absolutely go there. But that's what I mean. Like this whole, the writing is just schizophrenic. It's the best I can say about it.
I think that she has a very hectic life, and this becoming She-Hulk has just made her even more hectic than she was before. And I don't know. What's interesting is that she seems like she had a really nice family. The family members are really nice, and I think that the character, the way that she's portrayed, is trying to move away from how nice this family is. She goes to visit them and they're, like, well, how are you doing? And they're like, just a regular loving family. And I'm thinking to myself, they're the ones she needs to be turning to. She should be on the phone with them more and hanging out with them a little bit more in these dangerous times. So when the father, am I correct in saying that the father arrives?
The father, I will give them this, that someone in the writer's room, they have a good relationship with their father, because there is one man in the entire series that kind of like gets away unscathed, and that's the father. He is shown as nothing but a loving, caring father who wants the best for his daughter. And I'm actually amazed that happened, because I would not have foreseen it happen.
But
because
then
every other man in the series is portrayed as shit, except for him.
But even when he comes there to protect her, she's not appreciative. If my father's not alive, but if he were and he felt he had to come over because he thought I was in danger, I would be so grateful.
Yeah.
Well, don't be ridiculous, Andre. It's because it's Larry Appleton.
Exactly. And also, as Uber B Man says, Andre, it's like that because it's written individually by different writers instead of a cohesive writer's room. I think so. I think that is why this series seems to be so schizophrenic. Like everything kind of like shifts in like a breakneck pace.
It
like
is
there's
very
no consistency, and this is the perfect explanation for it. So here in a room, someone likes her dad.
Yeah.
Or has like a good, normal, healthy relationship with her dad, whereas everyone else is a man hater. That's the only thing I can think about.
And I was joking, but a large part of it too also could just be that Mark knows how to make this character very likable. That's the other part. We got a veteran actor here who's probably working with what the best he's got to work with, and yeah, that's the upside. Is they're not making him the bad dad trope. That's a first.
Yeah, I mean, I would fully expect that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't knock him for that in that respect.
Yeah, no.
But no, I have zero interest in this show. I've given it every chance I can. I did not watch this latest episode because, you know, like I said earlier, at this point, it's like, why would you eat the final course of a meal that already made you sick at this point? No, I don't see this show doing much better than it already has. Isn't the ratings worse than Miss Marvel at this point?
They're getting there. I mean, they were the second worst to begin with. That was like 1 or 2 episodes in. I think that by the time we're going to get to like episodes 5, 6, 7 and stuff, they'll be worse than Miss Marvel, and this will supplant Miss Marvel as the least popular Marvel Disney Plus series, which is ironic because you could argue that She-Hulk is the most popular character, one of the most popular characters, to be the subject of a Disney Plus series to date.
Probably.
So
outside of Loki, you're probably right.
Yeah, outside of like Loki and like the original characters like Hawkeye and stuff like that. Of course, he was barely in his own.
Yeah.
Stuff, but...
I keep forgetting Hawkeye had his own show.
Yeah, you see, there you go.